much money were you told that you're supposed to have saved to pay bills if you lose your job? 3 months worth of savings? 6 months worth of savings? That's what I was told too. So what happens when you're like almost at 2 years unemployed? Then what? Then what do you do? Because at that point, the advice always shifts from math to judgment, and somehow you're the problem for like not inventing money. This video is about why the "you should have had more savings" narrative completely collapses when unemployment lasts for years instead of months, and why this is not a budgeting failure on your part. Most of us are prepared for a short disruption. We're told to have a few months of mortgage saved, a little cushion for an emergency, right? And we did. And a lot of us were fine for 3 to 6 months or more. But what no one prepares you for is being unemployed for years. 2 years is not an emergency. 2 years is not a rough patch. It's a freaking collapse. And yet somehow everyone still shows up like, well, Sheila, did you try skipping your lattes? Yeah, like Starbucks personally caused the Great Depression in my 50s. Hey, I'm Sheila. I am not a coach and I am not a guru. I have lived with mental health issues and a trauma-filled life, as well as survived a 30-year corporate career, and I just love sharing my receipts. I'm your internet auntie, midlife, mouthy, and operating on an extremely narrow definition of fine. And when I say fine, I mean the bar is low enough that if I'm upright, hydrated, and not Googling where are they hiring chunky white-haired strippers, well, that counts as stability. I have zero interest in pretending that all of this is character building, right? I mean, if it is character building, then I have clearly built the wrong character and I'd like to speak to management. I didn't live recklessly. I didn't ignore the future. I did exactly what responsible adults are told to do. Which probably should have been my first clue, honestly. I saved for retirement. I put money into my 401k. I planned for a future version of myself who was supposed to still exist inside the system. What I didn't plan for was being erased from it. If you've never had to stare down the math of a multi-year free fall, you genuinely don't understand how fast normal savings disappears. Not because you're irresponsible, but because the timeline outgrew the plan. 2 years ago, I got laid off, and I remember thinking, this isn't bad. It's no big deal. It's temporary. You know, I'm a competent adult. I'm grown. I'm smart. I'm experienced. I'm a professional. I'll bounce back like I always do. No worries. And here I am 2 years later, 55, broke, rebuilding, and learning that competence does not override math, timing, or corporate menopause. If you are a burnout veteran who did everything right and still ended up staring down financial quicksand, you should probably sit down because this one bites a little bit. I had a great career, the kind that people nod respectfully about at dinner parties and then silently run to their car and go Google it because they have no idea what I just said. It paid me real money. It gave me promotions. It rewarded me for being reliable, productive, and psychologically duct taped together. What I did not have was a safety net that could carry me any longer than 6 months, and somehow that makes me unprepared. Before anyone assumes that there was a secret spending scandal, I need to be very clear about how I lived. I have never been on a real vacation in my entire adult life. You know, the kind where you plan and you take 2 weeks off and you go visit somewhere that you've never been. I've never left the United States. I was not sipping anything with a little umbrella on it. I was home answering emails. I did not fall from excess. I fell from normal, which is why everyone thinks that it won't happen to them, right up until it does. My money did not go toward extravagance. It went towards staying upright, emotionally regulated enough to function, and presentable enough to keep earning. Did I buy stuff? Heck yeah, I did. But mostly everything that I made went right back into keeping myself operational. That was the system. There's no mystery. There's no scandal. Just maintenance. My financial strategy was basically, please don't fall apart today. And shockingly, that does not scale. The trap sneaks in quietly. As your income increases, you spend more, not because you're reckless, but because surviving adulthood raw dogging it is exhausting. People call it lifestyle creep, which sounds fancy, but mine wasn't like a bougie creep. It was just like the kind where you start buying the better version of things because you finally can, and then suddenly you can't, but the habit doesn't get the memo. So when the layoff happened, no, I was not prepared for it. I didn't end up here because I was careless. I ended up here because it genuinely never occurred to me that my usefulness would be revoked while I was still showing up on time with a good brain and an even better work ethic. I believed that I would work until I chose not to. I didn't realize that the choice might be made for me by someone who doesn't even know my name. It's true that I didn't lose everything, but I lost breathing room. I lost ease. I lost choice. Now every purchase is an exercise, not a decision. I lost the ability to move through my life without doing math in my head every 5 freaking minutes. Nothing keeps me up more at night like silently staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'm too old to sell my organs to keep us surviving another month or two without totally leaning on my husband. I call it my drop dead number. That's when your brain immediately goes, okay, but like, which organs are decorative? Let me tell you, the moment that you write down that number, you think to yourself, well, that's bleak. It feels like the financial version of stepping on the scale at the doctor's office and then just pretending that you're not surprised. Ooh. Severance ran out. Unemployment stopped answering my calls. Confidence quietly slipped out the back door. Reality stepped forward and informed me that the foundation that I thought I had was actually just vibes and hope. 2 years later, I'm still rebuilding because the layoff didn't just remove my job. It exposed how tight everything had always been. There was no secret splurge. There was no hidden luxury. I drive a regular GMC, whatever it is. I think it starts with a T. It's the kind of car that no one even notices in the parking lot. I wasn't out here flexing. I was going to work and coming home. That was it. That was the whole show. And here's the part that no one seems to understand. This didn't happen to me because I lived big. This happened because I lived like the floor was going to stay where it was. I wasn't prepared because it never crossed my mind that it could drop. When people ask me about what I miss most about corporate, I got to tell you, it's not the work. It's not the purpose. It's not the people. Screw all that. I miss the paycheck. I do not miss the meetings, the emails, or pretending to care about quarterly goals, but I would absolutely take that direct deposit back in a heartbeat. The real twist was realizing that I wasn't performing anything. I genuinely thought I was doing life the way that adults were supposed to do it. I really did believe that retirement would be real for me. Not the glossy version with yachts and golf shirts. Please, I don't even like going outside. I'm just talking about the simple version, the human version, the version where life eventually slows down instead of escalating forever. I never imagined that I would stop work completely. I always thought that I would be able to choose when to work, that I could work because I enjoyed having purpose. Also, for the record, I do not dream of beach walks or sunrise yoga. I dream of my joints cooperating and not needing a recovery day after I haul in the groceries. I thought I would decide when to stop working. I didn't know that the decision could be made silently, efficiently, and without my consent. Nobody told me that I wouldn't be allowed to work, that I wouldn't be wanted, no longer desired. Nobody mentioned the part where one day you just age out. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would be punished for getting older. That one day I would wake up and discover corporate America had unfriended me. And honestly, I guess I was stupid or naive, but I never thought that this would happen. The part that hurts the most is not even about me. It's about my husband. My husband's a plumber, and his body can't take much more of what he's doing. And even though he doesn't complain, I can see the pain in the way that he moves, the way that he sits, the way that he stands, breathes, or pauses before going up a flight of stairs. I don't want him working himself into the hospital just so we can be fine, right? I want him to be able to stop before he breaks something that he can't unbreak. And the guilt of not being able to give him that, it sits in my chest every single day. I didn't just lose a job. I lost the version of life where he gets to rest. Nothing makes you hate the word fine faster than watching someone you love grind themselves down so you can survive another month. That's what retirement meant to me. Just stopping, slowing down, enough to live like a person instead of a bill-paying machine. Retirement is not an age. It's not a milestone. It's a privilege. And I assumed it would show up eventually because I followed the instructions. For me, retirement was never a finish line. It was relief. It was the idea that at some point life would stop swinging so hard, that we'd get a little bit of room, that we'd get a minute, that we'd finally get to be people again instead of two stressed out humans powering through a mortgage with whatever's left of our joints. That's why I lived the way that I did, not out of delusion, not out of vanity, but out of a belief that I had time. I wasn't wrong for thinking it. I just found out that the finish line had moved and nobody bothered to tell the adults. Here's the thing. Midlife does not break you. It exposes you. It turns on every fluorescent light that you've been avoiding and lets you see exactly what was holding you up and what never was. This is bigger than me being broke at 55. This is not a failure story. It is a visibility story that people keep trying to turn into a budgeting lecture. The system just looks at me and shrugs and says, hey, wow, that's a crazy story. Anyway, have you considered being younger? And the wild part is how ordinary this trap is. The whole system runs on the assumption that we'll keep absorbing the hit and that we'll just keep stretching ourselves thinner, quieter, older until something snaps. And when it finally does, they act shocked, like it wasn't designed to happen that way. 2 years out from the layoff, and I'm finally seeing the truth with both eyes. I was not financially reckless. I was human in a system that expects people to thrive without support, without rest, without mental health, and without ever making a single mistake. The shame doesn't come from being broke. The shame comes from thinking that everyone else had it figured out and that you were the only one improvising adulthood with a fraying rope and way too much hope. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm realizing something pretty huge. No one was prepared. Not the people with degrees, not the people with houses, not the people who made six figures, and not the people who looked stable from the outside. We were all on a timer that we didn't know was ticking. And nobody shows you the clock. They just take it off the wall and they tell you time management is a mindset. And the timer, it wasn't tied to performance. It was tied to age, to budgets, to someone in a meeting deciding my value had a shelf life. The timer was never ours to set. It wasn't based on effort or loyalty or how many times we showed up on empty. So what I would like to do is address some comments that I get more than anything else. And the first one is, well, at least you have a husband. People say that like it's a safety net or a shortcut or some kind of guaranteed rescue plan. It isn't. When one income disappears from a two-income household, the math changes immediately, regardless of relationship status or personal sacrifice. My husband has his bills and I have mine. And yes, our money is our money, but together we built a lifestyle that required two incomes. When my income disappeared, 70% of what we lived on vanished with it. Now, Doug didn't suddenly become a rich man with a spare vault of cash. He became a man working his body into the ground, trying to pick up my slack, which isn't sustainable for either of us. Leaning on him isn't a flex. It's a debt with a heartbeat. And it's terrifying. He deserves better than carrying both of us. And the people who say this so casually never picture the actual math. They picture a sitcom husband with a bottomless wallet, right? Not a real man whose knees sound like bubble wrap and who's been carrying more than his share for years because life came at us sideways. The second comment that I get a lot is, well, just sell some of your stuff, especially the stuff that's behind me on my shelves, right? As if this is some kind of secret retirement fund back here. Most of the things behind me were bought at Hobby Lobby when they do their 85% off sales because I made a home feel warm on a budget. Selling them for $20 won't move the needle in my life, people. Honestly, I'm not even convinced if 20,000 would move the needle at this point. At this stage, unless the Powerball numbers land directly in my lap, all financial advice feels like someone yelling hydration tips at a house on fire. This isn't a decluttering problem. It's a financial crater. And a crater doesn't get fixed with a yard sale. That's not a strategy. That's magical thinking. And here's the part that people never factor in when they start lecturing you about just plan better. Most of us weren't building investment portfolios for emergencies like this. We were building them for our futures, the ones that we were told we'd get if we worked hard enough. Retirement accounts aren't designed for detours or layoffs or the kind of financial freefall that you don't see coming until you're already upside down. They're designed for 65, not 55 and panicking. And tapping into them early isn't a solution. It's a threat. It's choosing whether present me drowns or future me starves. Neither one feels like a smart option. Do I realize that this is connected to choices that I made? Yes, absolutely I do. Does that make it hurt less when I lie awake at night doing math with dread in my chest? No, it does not. At least you have a husband is not math. Just sell your stuff is not strategy. Most of us built savings for the future that we were promised, not for the sudden multi-year exile from income. Retirement accounts are not designed for detours like this, and touching them early is not planning. It's Russian roulette with your 70s. Now, I worked hard. I did well in a lot of places. I just wasn't perfect in every one of them. And I'm tired of being judged like I should have been. I share my life online with you because I'm trying to help. I'm trying to tell the truth before it blindsides someone else. I'm also, whether I like it or not, I'm a cautionary tale. Don't assume that you have more time. Retirement isn't a reward. Retirement is a loophole that fewer and fewer people are getting to reach. Retirement age might be 65 on paper, but we're being pushed out of our careers in our 50s. And that's the reality that no one wants to talk about. I'm not saying this because I failed. I'm saying it because it's already happened and people deserve a warning. So no, I'm not pretending that I'm rich anymore. I'm 55, I'm broke, I'm rebuilding, and I'm living inside of a budget that actually exists instead of one I assumed was coming. Because the imaginary budget was polite and optimistic, and reality doesn't give a shit. I don't know if I will ever retire, and I don't even know what retirement means for people like me, the ones who thought that we had more time, more runway, more padding than we actually did. But I do know this. 2 years after losing my job, I'm finally telling the truth about my life instead of pretending that I'm fine. And if that honesty makes me a cautionary tale, then fine, so be it. At least I'm saying it out loud before someone else ends up here thinking that they did something wrong.